In today's video, I'm going to give you 3 places to travel to if you're intimidated by international travel. So let's go. What is going on YouTube? Greetings from my beautiful beach view apartment here in Pattaya Beach, Thailand. I mean, it's just a gorgeous view. This apartment is $600 a month, all utilities included, and Wi-Fi, Netflix, all that stuff. It's one of the reasons I love international travel. You can travel to some amazing places and get some amazing deals, but I know some of you might be a little intimidated by international travel, and maybe Thailand isn't a place you would go to first because of the language barrier and other different cultural barriers. So I came up with a list of 3 places that are pretty exotic, but I think are easy places to travel to for people that might be intimidated by international travel. There are a couple obvious choices that I excluded from this list. Like I said, I picked 3 rather exotic places because, you know, if you're going to travel, you don't want to go to a place that's too similar to your home country. I know most of my audience is Canadian and from the US. Being from the US and Canada, we could travel to England and Ireland and feel pretty comfortable. But while those are great places to travel to, they're very similar to our own culture. So I picked 3 places that I think are a little bit different and a little bit more exotic for you to travel to if you're intimidated by international travel. I picked 3 countries. One of them is in Europe and 2 of them are in Asia. I had really 2 criteria for these countries to make it a good jumping off spot to someone that is, you know, like I said, might be intimidated by international travel. Number 1 is that the country is an English-speaking country, and number 2, the country is safe. The first country on the list is Singapore. So Singapore is an island nation of about 5 million people in Asia. It is considered the business hub of Asia. It's very modern, state-of-the-art. Very few cities can compare with their public transportation system. It's super, super safe. I remember the first time I went to Singapore, I got on the metro system and there were little like 4 and 5-year-old kids on there by themselves with their little backpack going to school. There's not a lot of countries that a 4 or 5-year-old would jump on the metro by themselves and go to school, but it's very common in Singapore. It is super, super safe. Also, just about everyone in Singapore speaks English. One of the things I love about Singapore, and probably the main reason I put it on this list, is the cuisine there is next level. It's like a mix of like Thai food, Malaysian food, Singaporean food, Indian food, Chinese food. There's so many different influences on the cuisine there. You can just get some amazing food there. If you want a little preview of Singapore, watch the movie Crazy Rich Asians. One of my favorite scenes in there is when they go to a hawker stand. A hawker stand is like a food court that has a bunch of little stands that specialize in one item. Maybe this stand specializes in chicken and rice, this one in spring rolls, and you just go to each stand and get an item, bring it all to the table and eat. It's a really cool experience. The weather in Singapore is very similar to Florida. You also have like a Rodeo Drive there where they have like a Saks Fifth Avenue. So if you're into shopping, Singapore is one of the best places in the world for shopping. So highly recommend Singapore. All right, the next country on the list is one of my favorites. It's the country of Malta. Malta is an archipelago in the central Mediterranean between Sicily and northern Africa. Because of that location, there's a bunch of different cultural influences. You have the Italian influence, you have the Middle Eastern influence, the Northern African influence. Throughout its history, Malta's been occupied by somebody, whether it was the Romans, the Moors, the Knights of St. John, the French, the British. So many different cultures have influenced this little island country. And you'll see that in the architecture and in the cuisine. There are some amazing castles on Malta, some of the most amazing in the world, and you can have some amazing food. It's like a mix of Italian, Middle Eastern, it's like all the good stuff from all these different cultures. wrapped up into one. Like I mentioned, because they were occupied by so many different cultures, there's some amazing fortresses and some amazing temples there, and a 6,000-year-old burial chamber underneath the city. The reason Malta made this list is it's one of the safest places in the world. It's usually ranked the #1 safest place in Europe. And guess what? Everybody speaks English on Malta. I first went to Malta in 1998, and it's been one of my favorite places ever since. Every time I go there, I stay in St. Julian Square, and I have an amazing time. I mean, I have it on this list because I love it so much, but also, like I mentioned, it's just a really easy place to travel to, super safe, and everyone speaks English. So the last country on my list might be a little bit controversial, but I don't think it is. It's Malaysia. Malaysia is in Southeast Asia, and it's on the Malaysian Peninsula as well as Borneo, which is pretty cool. Malaysia is known for its beaches, its rainforest, and its state-of-the-art city of Kuala Lumpur. Culturally, Malaysia is a mix of Malay, Chinese, and Indian, which makes for some amazing cuisine. You'll see that's a common theme that runs through these three places. They all have amazing food. When people ask me what country has the best food in the world, it's often a hard question for me to answer, but I always end up coming back to Malaysia. The food is just so good here. It's like a mix of Malay food, which is kind of similar to Thai and Indonesian, Indian, and Chinese. I took all the best things from those three cuisines and kind of combined them together. Or you can eat separately. You can get separate Malay food, Indian food, and Chinese food, and it'll be some of the best Malay, Indian, and Chinese food you've had in the world. Malaysia is also primarily a Muslim country. It's really interesting culturally for that region. So Indonesia and Malaysia are both primarily Muslim, where the rest of Asia is not. So it's really interesting to see the Muslim culture in the Asian region. If you want to live in a state-of-the-art city, you can go to Kuala Lumpur. If you want something different, kind of old world, go to Georgetown, Penang. But if you want something really, really cool, go over to Borneo, go to Kota Kinabalu. Over in Borneo is where they have the largest population of orangutans in the world. So you can go on a hike, see some orangutans. It's pretty cool. Almost anywhere you go in Malaysia, you're going to see some monkeys. So if you're into monkeys, you'll probably see some in Malaysia. Just like the other two countries on this list, everyone in Malaysia speaks English, so you'll have no issue with the language barrier. Malaysia is very safe. I've never had a safety issue there. I do get the question, hey, if I'm an LGBTQ person or couple, how will I be perceived in Malaysia? To answer that question, go check out my friends Beer for Breakfast. They're an LGBT couple that spent a ton of time in Malaysia. They'll be able to give you more insight on that than I could as a straight male, but I've never had an issue in Malaysia, and I've never met anyone that had an issue there. Okay, so those are the three places that I recommend people travel to if you're a little bit apprehensive or intimidated by foreign travel. What do you think? Do you agree with those three places? What would you add to my list? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching. See you next video.